You've been watching firefighters battle this blaze for most of the afternoon, and certainly hearing from the infrastructure MEC, Jacob Mamabolo, the unions that are there, Slindelo, would not really be impressed with what he's saying, because these are issues that they've been trying to raise with his department, amongst others, for years now.
Certainly, Kathy. This building, this is nothing new. The issues around this particular building have been manifesting for a while now. We've spoken to various staff members who've spoken that their own shop stewards inside this particular building have tried on many occasions to raise the issue around the safety concerns. And we now have a situation just a few days after we ourselves took a look at this building. We now know that 3 days later, this disaster has now taken place, and we know that at this stage 3 firefighters have lost their lives tragically. There's quite a somber mood out here. Everybody who is on the scene is really quite sad, traumatized, and quite in shock, in fact. And Kathy, I am with the EMS's Nana Khadebe. I just want her to just briefly take us through what is the search and rescue operations at this stage, as well as the blaze. Have we managed to contain the blaze? Or are we still trying to contain it, Nana?
The place has been contained to just one floor, and we have finished the search and rescue. We can confirm that nobody else was inside. We are still looking for a representative for the employees to confirm if their head count does as well say that there is no one that is missing.
Now, Nana, just take us through what happened with regards to the first firefighter who fell to his death.
They have managed to interview one of the firefighters that was with the crew, and he's saying that when they went in, there was a whole lot of smoke, and they could not get pressure from the hydrant, so there was no water from the hydrant that they wanted to use. So they decided to get some oxygen and break the window and step outside into the balcony. So as he was moving in the balcony, he did not count the steps, and he just fell. Unfortunately, he died.
At this stage, we understand, have the families been informed?
The first family has been informed. We have senior officials and our chaplaincy services going to inform the other 2 families.
And we understand, of course, that the 2 remaining bodies have also been retrieved.
Yes, they have been retrieved. The 2 other bodies, it was the same team. So the 5 firefighters that went in, 3 have died, and only 2 are left to tell the story.
Thank you so much, Nana. As you've heard, Kathy, of course, we are still trying to fight the blaze here at downtown Johannesburg. And, of course, we do have those visuals that we took last week when I did speak to the staff members. Let's just take a listen as to what the concerns were that were raised by the staff members around the inhumane working conditions that they were complaining about. As you walk into the building, you're immediately greeted with a strong stench coming from the basement. ENCA seen a 2017 notice from the Department of Labour prohibiting employees from working on the ground floor right up to the 10th story. Those are the levels where the Provincial Human Settlements Department operates from. The notice says the building is a health and safety hazard to those inside. This man says he was diagnosed with a fungal infection allegedly attributed to his working conditions. He's not the only one. These public servants say they fear for their lives every time they go to work.
People are starting to get sick. People are dying at work. The water there at work also, it's even changing the color. Management seems to turn a blind eye on the matters that we have been raising. We don't feel safe at all. We actually don't feel safe. It's just that we don't have any option. If we don't come to work, we might get dismissed.
The building is not good. The aircons are not working very well, and sometimes we don't have electricity. Sometimes there's no water. Then sometimes it's the sewer. problem, and it smells very bad, very, very, very bad. And even now they're spraying the perfume, and the perfume also causes us the sinus. So it's very bad. It's not an environment that people can work to.
Union Nahawu has now threatened to strike.
The building has been not suitable for habitation for a while now. It's been longer than 2 years that we've been aware of this situation. These three departments are showing disdain to the health of our members, to the safety of our members. Workers must not enter that building. And as a union, we are going to take ownership of that. And further to that, if we need to go on strike to get these departments to listen to us, that's what we're going to do.
The Labour Department says the notice has been revoked after work was done in the building. Meanwhile, the Department of Human Settlement says it'll move to another building in December. Slindelo Masikane, Johannesburg.
Slindelo, what I'm really getting also from your report and speaking to the various officials is that this matter was clearly not treated with the sense of urgency that it needed to.
Certainly, Kathy, definitely. That is what has transpired at this. It was actually in disdain. The concerns of these workers were not taken seriously to the point where even their representatives were suspended for trying to raise these particular issues that bring us to downtown Johannesburg and dealing with this blaze. Now, of course, the infrastructure MEC Mamabulo has said that we cannot at this stage attribute this particular fire to the conditions of the building, but what we know is that there is a definite strong possibility that it was an electrical fault. As you heard from Nana Khadebe earlier on, the particular firefighter who fell to his death when his team was up there, when they tried to use a fire hydrant in order to contain the blaze and to take out the fire, there was no water inside that fire hydrant. So it begs the question as to why the Department of Labour, once it had issued their prohibition notice last year in 2017, why that prohibition notice had been revoked when it's clear that this building is still inhabitable and has been inhabitable for a while now. Now, when I got the call this morning that there was a blaze, you can imagine the shock and the horror and the trauma that these particular staff members are now going through. The fact that for a while now they've been pleading with government that please move us from this building. It is not safe. We are not safe in this building. And it took this tragedy in order to have government listen, basically. Now, we know that the infrastructure MEC says that he is in possession of a report that has basically looked at all the 8 government buildings owned by the provincial government, and that it conveniently was released last week to him, stating that this particular building was not only non-compliant, its rating was sitting at 21%, which is really, really unacceptable. And I think moving forward, it's really going to, it remains to be seen what the provincial government is going to do in order to rectify the state of these particular government buildings. We are, of course, aware that at the Premier's office there was also a fire that broke out there. So in the next couple of days, we understand that we will be getting more details into the state of these government buildings and get the plan moving forward on how government staff and public servants are going to feel safe at work.
Well, certainly one would have thought that a rating of 21% in and of itself would have been the red flag that was necessary to evacuate that building immediately. But that not having happened, perhaps very briefly take us through some of the scenes which you saw earlier on in the day. Were there employees in that building as that fire broke out, and what did they say to you when you arrived on scene?
Certainly, Kathy. I mean, when we arrived on the scene, it was around, I think, an hour or so once the blaze had begun. The blaze began at around 10:30, and as you can imagine, they are in shock. They are traumatized at this stage. We also don't know whether the Gauteng Provincial Department will be offering counseling to these particular employees. But what we know is that they were really, really distraught. The one woman that I spoke to, that you heard in the package, when I saw her, she literally came up to me and hugged me and started crying. She was bawling, saying that this is what they wanted. What they wanted has now happened, basically, and really, really, really affected by the fact that they had to watch a firefighter who was coming to really save them lose their life in the process of saving them. So that the events of today have really been traumatic. We understand that, of course, the staff from this particular building will be working from home as of tomorrow, and that an investigation will proceed into understanding exactly what caused the blaze. And we also know that the emergency services themselves, they have been quite affected by this. We know that their resources are dwindling, and as you can imagine, having to fight off this fire has not been easy. It still has not been contained. It's only been contained to one floor at this stage. So the mood here, the scenes at this stage right now are calm. We did see the forensic van taking away the two remaining bodies that were found inside. But at this stage, what we have is a situation, I'm just going to ask Thando to pan for you, is a situation where the fire is just basically trying to be put out. That is what is happening at this stage. We still have emergency services on scene. We still have a fire truck on scene, and traffic is still being diverted around this building. The area remains quite cordoned off, and in fact a lot of the Johannesburg residents, as well as people who come here for work, are still out here monitoring the situation, also still quite in shock to have witnessed, glass falling from, the 23rd story as firefighters were trying to get oxygen because of the lack of oxygen coming from the blaze, Kathy.
All right.